Everybody for a morning update. There's a constantly evolving stream of news around the situation with the coronavirus. Went in early this morning to the Capitol for a briefing from the main federal agency leaders who are responsible for this coronavirus response, taking the preventive actions necessary. We had Dr. Fauci there, we had the head of the CDC, the head of the FDA, the Surgeon General. We had a number of other individuals who were there to answer questions from members of Congress about what's going on. I wish I could tell you that I left that meeting more confident about our capabilities and actions as a country to prevent the further outbreak, to provide mass testing capabilities for free to people anywhere in the country without red tape, without jumping through hoops, to make sure that those who are healthcare workers in our nursing homes are being tested, but none of that's true. None of that's true. I am deeply, deeply concerned about how we are weeks into this crisis. The World Health Organization has just declared this coronavirus as a global pandemic, and yet here in the United States of America, we are far behind most other countries in the world who have immediately taken action to, whether they are already developed or to develop large numbers of tests that they can provide for free, readily available to individuals, do these large numbers of mass testing as we're seeing in places like South Korea, in Germany, in Scotland, even Senegal now in Africa. They have come up with a new innovation to be able to test for the coronavirus with a handheld device with results in 10 minutes. Unfortunately, we don't have any of this here. And it doesn't appear that there is a clear plan to be able to accomplish this. We were unable to get any clear timelines on when these existing tests, I think they're saying they're deploying around 2 million tests across the country, which is basically creates the capability to test around 800,000 people. But right now, at best across the country, the numbers of people being tested are in the single digits, from what we can tell. We're trying to get confirmation. Again, there were very little specifics on the numbers being reported this morning. We're hoping to get some clarity on that. But, you have people on tribal reservations, Indian health services, where they do not have the testing labs nearby to be able to get these tests done. So the best they can do is take the swabs, send it off to a lab, and wait maybe 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, a week before getting the results. We have individuals, a friend of mine whose father is very, very sick. He is elderly. He has the symptoms related to coronavirus, but is being told that he can't get tested. There are so many situations here that point to the need for us to be able to have this mass testing capability, no matter who you are, no matter where you are, to be able to start to identify who is actually infectious and then to quarantine them so that they're no longer out and about and posing a health risk to people in their communities, at work, at school, and even at home. So this is something that we're continuing to press the administration on. Here shortly, any minute now, we'll be headed down to the House floor to begin 2 rounds of votes to pass a funding bill that will provide direct aid to individuals who are being impacted by this coronavirus crisis. What does this look like? I'll put out a more detailed statement later, but basically what this looks like is guaranteed paid leave, that whether you work for a small business or you work for a large corporation, if you have to go into quarantine because of coronavirus and you're told you've got to go home for 14 days, or if you get sick, there should be no question in your mind of, well, gosh, maybe I should still go to work so that I can get my paycheck, potentially putting others at risk. So guaranteed paid leave, making sure that Number two, anybody who needs a test is going to be able to get it regardless of whether you have insurance or you don't. Food assistance for kids whose schools are shut down and who rely on free and reduced lunches at schools for their meals. Also food assistance for seniors who are reliant on public funding for meals to make sure that those meals are continued to be delivered. Look, there's so much that needs to be done. We need strong leadership in the administration to cut through the red tape and make sure that the CDC, the FDA, the lead organizations here are pushing the pedal to the metal, who are making it happen, and that's not what we're seeing today. The fact that nursing home healthcare workers are still not at the top of the list for people who should be tested to make sure that they are not incubators, that they are not, even with mild or no symptoms, carriers for this virus. The fact that this isn't happening is absolutely unacceptable, because this is the most vulnerable population, with the deaths, most of the deaths that we've seen so far coming from those who are living in these nursing home facilities. I'm introducing a bill later today that would call for an emergency universal basic payment directly to every single adult in this country, because we will all be impacted by this crisis, especially those who may face being laid off, those, and there are projections of thousands of jobs being lost, those who are scraping by living paycheck to paycheck and who literally don't have the means or the ability to go and buy 2 weeks or 4 weeks of groceries, should they be find themselves in a situation where they have to be quarantined and they have to isolate themselves in their homes. This kind of direct assistance to every American is essential. President Trump and leaders in Washington are meeting with Wall Street. They're meeting with industry leaders, and they're talking about bailouts for the big banks. They're talking about bailouts for the tourism industry. Every time we see these bailouts happen, they are paid for by us, the taxpayers, and the taxpayers get no help, get no bailout, and end up suffering the most in these situations of crisis. Yes, Dan says this is better than payroll tax cuts. This is better than the payroll tax holiday, or whatever you want to call it, because look, if you're somebody who earns $25,000 a year or less, if you get a payroll tax holiday, that might mean you get an extra $10 in your paycheck. It's not going to do that much. If you are, as many people are these days, if you're an Uber driver, if you're someone who relies on this gig economy to make a living, you don't have an employer, you don't have paid sick leave, you don't have this payroll tax coming out of your paycheck, you're not going to be helped by this. We need direct assistance. Deliver it on a debit card type of situation, or send an electronic transfer just like you do when you get your tax refund. Either way, this assistance needs to be delivered immediately. So stay tuned. I will check in. I will check in again soon. I forgot the final thing was I sent a letter to President Trump yesterday calling for a suspension of cruise line operations until we get a handle on this thing, because those cruise ships are just like, I don't know, which petri dishes for this virus, and pose a major threat. It's good to see this morning that I think the two largest cruise line operators have suspended operations until May, checking to see if there are others who are still planning on operating. They shouldn't be. They shouldn't be docking at any U.S. ports. They shouldn't be transporting people unless there is a 100% certainty that you can test people before they go on the cruise ship to say, no, you're not carrying the virus. So that's the update for the moment. More to come soon. Have a great day, everybody. Bye. Aloha.